yeah. Good evening, all. It's good to be here, Dave in the AM. Glad to be here. Had a great day. It's been a busy day. A lot of stuff going on in my world, your world, the world at large. It's good to be here. Southern Fried MAGA Report. Kind of revamped some things. We had other programming. This is a kind of sort of a new show, and will be weekdays at the same hour. That is the hope. I think it'll stay at that time. So we're glad to be here, and we're glad to have you, all you rumblers, rumbling, stumbling, and a few other streams that we might have tagged in here. I don't know if I can see the chats on those, though. But it's good to be here. Thank God for Rumble. Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be an American. Glad to be a patriot. Extremely glad to be a Christian, family man, dad, granddad. Love all that stuff. It's been a good day of fighting for freedom, showing those things. One sad note for me, pray for my family. My aunt passed in the night, was expected. Shout out to her family, my cousins, first cousins, my dad's sister. Really hate that. Just a wonderful lady who worked hard her whole life and raised a great family. And I'll miss her, but I'll see her again one day. We will see her again. Thank you, Miss Jen. Yeah, it's my Aunt Madeleine and my dad's sister. Very close. We spent a lot of time together as a young boy growing up. Spent a lot of time. We spent a lot of time with him, and that's where I got a lot of my farming experience, as it were. Not say I was a farmer, but I got a lot of work on the farm. It's always, that's one thing about. I heard this thing one time. In the South, us Southern folks, we have the skill, or a lot of do this oratory skill, where you come out, you step out on the balcony, and you just appeal to the people. It's kind of that stump speech kind of thing. Very well. And I said others aren't not good at it, but we're certainly good at it in the South. And I went to an oratory contest at a place not too far from where I live, and the guy's thesis, basically, of what he was trying to say is that us Southerners, we got to feel the dirt in our hands. We got to feel that. It's in us. I'm not saying it's not like that elsewhere. Don't be offended at that. It's a truth. A lot of farmers, a lot of farming in the South, yes, the Midwest, other places, yes. But my family was all farmers. I mean, you look back through the family tree, everybody was a farmer. There was a few wagon makers and a couple of folks that knew how to write, enough that they could be a scribe. But they were farmers. They felt that earth between their fingers. They fought the earth. They battled it. They prayed over it. Well, and that's where I got that experience. They had a farm, and you're never not caught up. I mean, or I should say, you're never caught up. You're always working. You're always something to do. You never tell them you're bored. That's for sure. Not on a farm. We played hard. We prayed hard. We worked hard, and not in any certain order, but all those were being done. And it was great memories, and I'll miss her. And so shout out to her family. I don't know that they'll see this program, but if they do, I love you, and we'll see her again. Many, many memories of being in church together as a young man. But glad that my dad and his sister are together. There's some other family members there. He has others that have passed, brothers, sisters. And so they're all one by one joining, and we'll join with them one day. But thanks for the thought. I do appreciate that. And so a lot of thoughts today as I thought about that, and many other things. And this great land, and I grew up in this almost a bubble, as we start this show. And I do have a weekend MAGA show, but this is kind of a news show. It's a little bit different format, just a little bit. And I thought about that upbringing and the bubble that I lived in. I knew the world. I mean, it's not that I say bubble. It's not that I didn't know what was going on. My dad was very much into politics enough that we kept up. He voted. I went with him. Every time he voted, I walked in with him, and it ingrained into me the importance of voting. I remember walking through those, passing out the pens and the stickers and the whatever else, as you're headed to the voting precinct. I sat at my dad's feet as I watched President Nixon stepping down, and all the way through. Always been involved, always been that way. But I would say the bubble part was, even though I knew there was assassinations, I knew there was race riots, I knew there was wars. We watched the Vietnam news reports. Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, all that stuff. It's like a lot of us did. Millions of us, my age, did that. I was allowed to grow up in a home where it was carefree days in a lot of ways. We knew what was going on. We did our part as citizens to try to make it a better place. We treated our fellow man right. We didn't let nobody disrespect us. We didn't disrespect nobody. And the street, everybody knew everybody. The neighbors looked after the kids. Didn't matter whose kid it was. Neighbors in need, we helped the neighbor. That's just, we all know that. And then we look at today, and neighbors don't know neighbors, and even though we knew there was corruption and crime and stuff, it's on a scale today that's so massive. It's staggering what we're seeing, and here the president is trying to make changes and get things done in every court. It seems like every court in the land is lining up, including, I must shout that out, including the Supreme Court at times. Seems like they're trying to stop him, slow him down. We got idiots out there claiming the sky is falling. Well, they weren't worried about the sky when they were, destroying the America that I love for the last 4 years and way before that. But now it's democracy, rights, Constitution. They've discovered all these things. Lord help. Donald J. Trump, president, making them cry. Every time that I see, and he's a master, president is a master at making news headlines and gigging his enemies. I saw this earlier, that the Trump store is selling Trump 2028 hats. I got to have one of those just because I know it's going to drive somebody crazy. Oh my goodness. You could go to the online store and get this. It says, quote, "The future looks bright. Rewrite the rules for the Trump 2028 High Crown hat." Reads the product description. Eric Trump modeled the MAGA style red hat. A social media post on Thursday. Donald Trump and others with him have thrown this idea out many times, the idea of a third term. And every time he says it, they go nuts. I kind of like it. He says, he had told on Meet the Press, "I'm not joking about trying for a third term. We're very popular, and a lot of people would like me to do that, but if I basically tell them we have a long way to go, it's very early in the administration." Oh, because you look around the country, you see all these crazy crapola things going on. More worried about people that are destructive to the nation than they are the nation itself and the protection of decent, good, and honest people. I saw this, continue to see people posting their hometown and this lie that city fathers in many towns across America, it kind of reminds you of Europe, sadly, what's going on. And the crime level and the the issues that they're having, and they point this out, that there's high crime, but they suppress it. People are ignorant of it. Maybe even a tourist area. They go, families going in, they don't realize what's going on. They do their very best to, squelch it, keep it down, lowball it. I remember a guy moving into the town that I'm near, a fairly, mid-sized city, almost second largest in Tennessee. I think it's very close, or third largest. Excuse me, third largest. It's fourth, but it's very soon to possibly be a third. I remember a guy moving in the area for a job. He was to be my manager. He said, "Oh, I was so glad to move here to such a safe city." I said, "Who told you that?" "Oh, we don't have no crime here. I've looked at the news. I've been watching it, keeping up." I said, "We got problems. I mean, there's danger all around. Robberies, rapes, murders. It's happening. It's what happens across America. We're seeing that, the major cities, and it's filtered into the suburbs. Remember, they said they're going to the suburbs. Like, we're coming for you. Remember that? Burning down cities. Oh, don't worry. We ain't forgot about you. We're coming for you." Yeah, they the threat. Minneapolis and other places. Oh, don't worry. You out there in the suburbs, we're coming for you. People think they live out. You don't live out far enough. Crime's everywhere. They just ride through the countryside looking for places to rob and pillage, and yeah, it happens. It just spills over and over. And we don't have enough police officers, and the defund and all this crap. We got a president who's trying to reinstill, pride in the military, build the military, build it back up, get the ranks back up, get the infrastructure, the ships, and all the things they need. But boy, don't worry, you got those knuckleheads not far behind, jumping right in there and still doing some of the same old crap. P. Hegseth out there today welcoming back, appealing. Letters have been sent, he said. Letters have been sent to these service members who were drummed out of the service. I'm so glad I'm on Rumble tonight. We do our streams a lot. We include some streams when I'm with Rob that we get in trouble and have got in trouble. We can't say things like, COVID or vaccination. Thank God for Rumble. So these jacklegs, you hear all the stories, you listen to these soldiers and what happened to them, and how they used every means they could to try to continue their military service and be there for their men. And we're talking about, decorated men of honor, men who fought in wars, men who have, put their life on the line for the nation and how they were treated. And at the same time, you got military leadership that was going through and trying to turn everybody into a girl, and just destroying the pride and the fighting spirit. Come on, when you got a military ready to go into battle, it's battle routed, baby. It's not. We'll just say it. It's not sissies, It's man's men. It's manly men. There's some tough women too. They're serving the military, but we don't turn men into women and go out there and go fight the enemy. The enemy's waiting on you. They're not allowed it. Those superpowers that are out there, the enemies, they're not allowed it. P. Hegseth, well, they're coming after him left and right. I mean, they're just coming after him. Still harping on the leaks that was caused. They're trying their best to put a wedge in between him and the president. They're trying their best to move him out. You always watch who the left goes after. Definitely watch who the left goes after. There's a reason for that. It's not the weak link. They always say that. You got the weak link. The enemy goes after. No, they're going after a main cog. They're going after someone who's holding things together, who's a threat to them, and they know it. Of things that they're trying to do. So they're He's trying to build the military up, and they're over here. And it's the same thing that's going on with the people have been sent out of the country. Instead of worried about making the country stronger and better, they're filing lawsuits and trying their best to stop the president and crying about it, going down and having margarita summits. But Trump 2028, I love it. Saving money, get things back in order, toughness to the country, letting the world know. But again, right behind, as we're doing that, judge blocks halting funds from sanctuary cities. Everything he tries to do, they're attacking it left and right, left and right. Judge halts part. These are headlines. Judge halts parts of Trump elections overall. It's every day. Every day there's a new judge stepping up. Big cases before the court, the Supreme Court. Huge case involving kids and people of faith. What type of indoctrination they're being given. Big case expected in June. These are, our kids. We're talking about our kids. We're talking about a government run amok that we know they already promote the idea that they're not your kids, they're their kids. They're just letting you raise them. That's bullcrap. It's my kids. Ain't no way. I talked a little bit about it this morning. People taking their kids to private schools, Christian schools, homeschooling, and getting away from it. It's just on and on and on. They just continue to ram it down the throats of the parents, the kids in the schools. The schools have become unsafe. They pour more money into security. It gets worse because the problems on the inside. It's just let in. They're looking at these outside threats, physical threats, but there's inside physical and mental, emotional threats inside the school. I mean, it's almost like they're locked in with it. I've got one in middle school, my granddaughter, and it's just ongoing. The stuff that and others that I take to school, and you hear their stories of stuff. It's an interesting perspective to get, and just the ongoing stuff that you hear it's just depressing. It really is. Things that allow to go on, the bullying that occurs. We just got problems in the country. We're trying to straighten it out. We got people out there doing their best to derail the country and try to keep it down on a downward spiral under the guise of that we're protecting democracy. And I've listened to a lot of my friends who become friends. Some I've known for a long time, some just recently known. And I think every one of us have the same. But we're almost 100 days in. We're fixed to celebrate 100 days in. Where's the purple? Where's some people in handcuffs that have been destructive and destroying the country? Where's the indictments? They talk about all the corruption, all the fraud. Where's the people at that's being arrested for this? We're not seeing it. It could still happen, but we're not seeing it. Where is the people going to jail, having to answer for the crimes against our nation? There's some things that have been fairly effective at it getting stopped or slowed down, like illegal immigration. But they're doing everything that they can, it seems like, to try to continue it, fighting to bring terrorists back into the nation. More concerned about that. Cities falling apart, they're more worried about someone who's outside the country. Got a president out working the foreign diplomacy, trying to bring peace between Ukraine and Russia. Yeah, it's a tenuous peace. But trying to stop a war that's caused America a lot. I mean, look at what we gave up. And we'll never see it. We'll never have an accounting of it. We'll never get an accounting of where the monies went, where the equipments went, or anything. It's gone. And what's going to be the end result of all this? What is going to be? What was it all done for? Crazy. No accounting. No accounting. And now we probably are not going to see peace. They said they were close. Twice they've said they were close. And then, of course, Russia unleashed a major volley on Kyiv, and it continues. We need to pray for the president. There's a lot going on. Europe's itching for battle. They won't end this thing. This world is teetering on a lot of major fronts. A lot of things could happen, fixing to happen, maybe happen. And while we don't know exactly the steps, we know the future holds because we know the prophecies. We know how bad it's going to get eventually. But we certainly want to see peace as often as we can and as much as we can across the world. And all these people have done is thrown gasoline on the fire, and now we got Russia. And they ride on the saber, and they talk about nuclear weapons, and if they're threatened in Belarus, or Belarus, the little puppet state. I don't think they would do that, but who knows? I'm reminded of that scene in the movie, the Jack Ryan movies, and Fred Pierce, God rest his soul. He did do a good last presidential run in Tennessee, but he said this thing's going to get out of control. That's kind of what I feel like. I think it's going to get out of control. Things are getting out of control. We just kept throwing enough things out there that things are really getting out of control for the world, and that's going to have an effect on all of us. And we're busy over here fighting about stupid stuff. Not that we shouldn't fight about things, but we shouldn't be having to deal with the crap. You ever do that as a leader? Like, you got if you've ever managed people, and you've got your overall operation, you've got your requirements, the things that you've got to do to hold on to your job for all of you. You got things as Biden said, the buck stops here, although he never answered for anything. But the buck does stop with the leader, and the leader has to make decisions and keep things going. And sometimes in the midst of trying to get all that done, you find yourself dealing with really trivial, immature, stupid stuff. It's just time stealers. And you're like, wow, I can't even believe I'm having to deal with this. And it always is just, makes you want to pull your hair out. And there's a lot of that going on in America right now. There's these time stealers. We got a lot to get done. There's a lot to do. It's still going forward, but there's time stealers. There's productivity stealers. People are still trying to hurt. Just think of all the vast improvement we need to see in the military. We're not battle ready. Our leaders are basically telling us that we're not battle ready. We hope it doesn't come, but we're not battle ready. We got to get there. We are not there. Been saying it for the alarm has been sounding for a long time, and yet we've got those out there that are still trying to derail, demean, drum out, hurt the military or the police forces or whatever it is. And these people these people are always in the way, always making sure that you're tripping over their crowd. Stuff that's not supposed to be in the way. It should be a clear path. They're always laying the snares and the traps to keep you from accomplishing the goals that you have. We got so many people like that in America right now. It's disgusting. But yet they promote themselves as almost like they're heroes for the stand they're taking, patting themselves on the back. We're here for you. Cheering themselves on while they look to hurt the country every day. It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. And there's just, at what point, I mean, the Constitution of the United States of America has to be defended at all costs. Without that, we don't have a guiding principle. The Constitution must be defended. And there are people committing treason against this nation from within. And and they need to be dealt with. And until we do that, we're not going to see the improvements that we need to see. And I wholeheartedly agree with those that I've been listening to. Now, we have different ideas about how far we go with that. I mean, there are some that call for some pretty drastic measures. But at some point, if things don't change, those drastic measures will be in play, because without it, it's over to a certain degree. And now is the time for all good men, to make that stand. Listen to a podcaster I really like. I don't agree with everything he says, but a lot. Not saying a name. It's audio, mostly audio. And about a year ago, I was listening to. He made some great points, and he said, as men of this nation, as fathers in this nation, why are we allowing our kids to be hurt the way they're being hurt? And he made a pretty drastic call for things to happen to defend those kids. I mean, and you look at what is happening to our kids. I mean, the kids who never allowed to be kids, the kids that are killed in the womb. That's one level of it. And you have the brutality that's happening against kids, and the brokenness that is occurring in our nation. The kids are being taken to things they should never be a part of, that are being damaged in their minds, or to the schoolhouse in many cases, not all, I'm not saying it's all, but in many cases is doing great damage to their minds, is warping their sense of right and wrong, making everything that is unholy, making it seem heroic, and that everybody else is the bad person if you speak against it. The attack on the faith institutions of our nation, it's going on around the world, has been, will continue to be, but where we were fairly protected, it seemed like, for a long time in America, now those places of faith are being attacked. COVID opened a doorway for that. There were pastors that had to make drastic stands, things they probably never thought they would have to do, like bringing lawsuits against their own city for things that they were doing to prohibit their right to practice their faith. And God bless those pastors that made a stand. Pastors that were under threats. I'm talking mega churches that they made a tremendous stand. They deserve a lot of credit. I mean, they did what they had to do. It's the right thing to do. I thought it's not that it was really no option. I mean, you don't have a right to shut those things down. Some people went willingly into the night. They just went willingly. So it's over. I guess we just can't do it. And others said, no, not on my watch. First Baptist of Dallas, Texas. Really enjoyed. That pastor has been on many national shows. There was a service that he did in his church where he laid it on the line, and it sounded as good as anything we've ever heard, including back during their fight to even be a country. It made me proud to be an American and a Christian to hear men talk like that. I mean, he was at the point where they may try to drag me to jail, but we're going to make the stand. Who's with me? And you're seeing more and more of that. They've drove a wedge in the family. They've tried to destroy the family. They've tried to destroy the number in the family. They've tried to destroy the minds in the family. They have done everything they can to destroy the family unit, the nuclear family in America, to the point where, to make it seem as disjointed as they can and make that seem normal. Yeah, things happen in life, and sometimes people had to do things that were not the nuclear family. I mean, things happen, accidents and stuff that caused that. My wife went through that trucking accident for her dad. So they didn't have a dad for a few years. And some very formative years too. And I saw some effects that had as their mom grieved you could just see some of that. It is so important to have that mom and dad in your life. And I look around and I look at kids that maybe they don't have a grandfather, and some have adopted me, and I'm honored to do that. Every kid deserves to have a grandfather, a papa or papa or whatever you're called. Every kid should have that grandma or somebody that has to stand in the gap. Can't put our heads in the sand and just say, "Well, I don't have kids. I never had kids. It's not on me." There's so many kids hurting. We got to look around. We got to find a way to uh, show these kids a allotted path, because what they're in we may not even know the fullness of how bad it is, but the effects of it are showing itself every day as the destruction of the family in America. And if anything, if one of the things I feel like MAGA is a part of it is those traditional values of family, faith, and freedom. Absolutely. And it doesn't start and stop with the president. It's got to continue on. Those have to ring true for always, and we have to make that stand as Americans and say, not on my watch. We're going to make that stand. Somebody asked me a question on a social site. They didn't like I'm almost certain they didn't like my post, which is fine. You get that. And they asked the question, and I said something about freedom, the freedoms we have, and the high cost of freedom. And they said, whose freedom? And what freedom? And they had all these questions. It was leading questions, and I'm sure what I felt like they were trying to do was point at America as being the bad person. And I'll say it again. I've said it recently a lot. I do not feel guilty about anything that ever happened throughout history. I do not wallow in guilt and feel bad. I am a proud American. Whatever's happened in the past has happened. It's time to move on. A friend of mine heard this saying, I liked it. When you know better, do better. I like that. When you know better, do better. Such as you read the Bible and you learn things that you're doing wrong. They're not godly. We're commanded not to do certain things. I mean, that's the basis of all law, is the Word of God. Right and wrong, without those guiding principles of the bedrock documents of the Bible or the Constitution. What is right and what is wrong? They do what's right in their own eyes, and that's what's happening in America. People are doing what's right in their own eyes and trying to convince everybody else that they're wrong and they're right. No. Well, we don't fall into that. We don't let you rip up the Constitution and change what we know to be right. These truths. We stand on our constitutional republic and the rights that we have, and they're given by God. And we do not accept that we're somehow the bad person in the room now. No, I refuse that. I won't feel guilty. I won't say that I'm wrong. I won't say that we've been wrong. No. Yes, we can learn from our mistakes if they're truly mistakes or something we shouldn't do. But we should never apologize for truth. Truth must always reign. I love that the president named, and people hated it, I love that he named his social network Truth. Just drove them. Liv was crazy. Truth. And now they've got Truth TV. Things are, he's fixing to move forward. They went public. A lot of funds came in. They're getting ready to move and stuff. And this is where we are. And so these platforms that guarantee the right of free speech, and we may not like what each other say, but we've always said the famous saying, "I will lay down my life to defend your right to say it." Absolutely. But however, we're not going to let someone tear down the country just because they think something's right in their eyes. their version or vision of what is right and wrong. There are absolute truths, and those truths must be followed and obeyed. Without it, we have nothing. We have chaos. We have anarchy. Anybody listening to this program knows that, or they may hear it in the days to come. You know that. Most people have common sense and understand that. But we're seeing more and more, just Looney Tunes. People that are doing unspeakable things and trying to make that they're right, they're the good people, and you're wrong and you're evil for just standing up for things that are the right and godly things to do, whether you believe in God or not. These are laws. These are guiding principles and laws and precepts and commandments and everything that we've lived our lives by, and they work. And people across the world, I love Trevor London. If you're familiar with Trevor London, God bless you, sir, from New Zealand. He tours the U.S. and he tells the country. He goes around. He speaks at churches, organizations. He tries his best to get the word out. And he said, "America, you're the last hope on the face of the planet. If we lose here, we've lost it all forever." That's a powerful statement, but it's true. The rest of the world has caved. The rest of the world has gave in to the globalist, to all every ism we could think about. They've caved to that. They're controlling people down to the nth degree of their life. This is what they want to happen here. What is it? 350 million cameras in China, at least. I heard a story of a guy. I mentioned this on a program recently. Just happened to catch his story. He was an American who was teaching abroad. He went to China. Oh, COVID happens. He gets locked in his apartment for over 2 years. Tremendous patriotic story. Loved his story. I was shouting going down the road as I listened to this man. And he said, "Listen, I've been all over the world." He said, "Never did I really appreciate and think about," because he said, "Everywhere I went, I made money. I did my job. It was no problem. I got to see the world. It was great." He said, "But when that happened, I realized what I had in America. I realized what my American citizenship meant." And he said, "My patriotism was off the chart." And he said, when they brought food out once a week, they had cameras located in front of everybody's building, so you couldn't leave. I mean, this is back when people were doing the nosedives off the top of buildings to their desks because they couldn't take the pressure no more. They just checked out. He taught other children from the balconies with signs. He couldn't do anything. When he finally got released, he had just enough money to get home. He said just enough money. I think he landed in California, LAX, I think, or whatever it was. He goes through customs. I'll never forget him saying this. He said he was in a line of 200 or 300 people. He's standing there thinking, how long is this going to take? He just want to get back in the country, get to his family. He's not had a whole lot of contact. It was just a lot of things that didn't happen. But anyway, he said somebody stepped out and said, "Are there any American citizens in the line?" I love that he said, "I never raised my arms so high as I did that day. I was up on my tiptoes, raising my arm high. Yes, I'm an American citizen." They said, "Come on down." So he goes down. He got his passport, and he said when the customs agent said, "Welcome back to America," he said he lost it. He said, I just bawled. He said, "At that moment, I realized what I had in America." He said, "I was never so glad." He said, "I had left the country and come back countless times." He said, "But there was never a day like that before when I realized what it meant to be a citizen of the United States." Folks, we cannot lose that special spark that we have in America. We cannot lose that. We got to fight that at our local level. We got to fight that on a state level. We got to fight that on a federal level. Doing our part, each citizen standing up and not allowing the jackboots of this country to destroy this beautiful republic that we have. There are a lot of good men and women making that fight today. God bless you. Thank you, each and every one of you, because you're a blessing to me and many others. And each of us must do our part. I started helping the elections about 3 years ago. I mentioned this. The reason I did it, two reasons. Well, three. One, my county put an ad out and said, we need you. I've thought about it before many times, but I never put it in practice. The county said, we got a special election. We need 50 extra poll workers. I didn't even know if they would take me. I thought, we're going to contact. So the first was my nation, that part of that nation, needed me as a citizen. I felt like that was a call to me to see if I could help. Number two was I wanted to do my part in making sure and learning. Well, two parts there. One is to make sure that the elections are good, they are safe, they are all those things. And then the other part was to learn things that I didn't know so that I could make informed decisions and help guide others if there were problems to share those, if there were successes to share those, but to help people understand better the process of voting and what is and what isn't and what it shouldn't be or what it must be, and correct some thoughts that were wrong. Some people had they didn't understand the rules that we have. Each state, each area can be different, but what those are and how do we follow those, and to recognize the good people that are working in elections and are trying to do the best they can for America. So yeah, and was able to accomplish that. I thought I would just help during that election. I thought then I will move along and I would do something else. Got plenty of things to keep me busy, but family, work, church, now podcast. Didn't have the podcast then. But what I found was I liked it, and I loved the people that I was working with, people from all walks of life, former educators, military people, tons of military people, dedicated civil servants, dedicated people to their country, their state, their county, their city, whatever. They're just good people, and they want to do the right thing, and that's infectious when you get around people like that, because sometimes you feel like you're alone in this, even though you know you're not. You feel like that. You feel like I'm outnumbered. There's not other people out there, because it's easy to say it's everybody. It's not. There's a lot of people out there that want to hurt the country. That's for sure, from inside. Well, we know it's from outside, but I'm talking about inside. There's a lot of people want to hurt the country. We got to deal with that as a nation, and we got to let people. And even if we really like them, if they're not living up to the principles for which they should, that we've elected them on to serve this nation, then we got to call them out on it. Even if it's people that we really, really like, if they're not living up to that standard, and the standard is the Constitution, then we got to call them out on it. We got to call them out on their campaign promises, make them go forward with it. If I'm a big believer in redemption. If you make a mistake, correct it. We're here to forgive that as long as you fix it and move forward, and hopefully never make that mistake again, intentional or otherwise. But to continue to get better and not run to the path of least resistance, but to run headlong into the trouble, immerse yourself in it, swim in it, and try to fix it. There's a lot of people don't want to do that. They run away from it. They flee. They don't want to. They just don't want to hear it. They're too busy entertaining themselves, and they've lost the vision, or maybe never had it, for what America is and what it should be. And there's all them voices out there that are saying, well, we need to get rid of this that we do in America. We need to, and they start working on it. It's like, it's the devil. They start working on, poisoning the mind, poisoning the mind. And people that go, maybe have family, and they're the people that are intent on the leftists of their nation, intent on destruction of our nation. They just continue to speak, yell it, preach it, never slowing down, because they know if they're repeated enough times, more and more people will take it as truth. They may not get you, they may not get me, but they're coming for our kids. They're coming for the grandkids, the great grandkids. They know they're not going to change an old patriot like me. They don't even try. They try to hinder me. They try to stop me. But they know they're not going to change this or this. They know that. They say, we'll get your kids. We'll poison their minds. We will turn them against you. They will be one of us. And you will die out. You will go away. They would like to help that along. Some of them. Well, they've called for it. Re-education camps. Don't even deserve to live. There's plenty of voices out there, shockingly, have said these things, and with seemingly very little rebuke. The gallery has shook their head, yeah. They would never admit that they were for it, the gallery, but they secretly are for it because they never speak up. And so when the crazy loonies, lefty loonies, say, we need to put MAGA in the re-education camps, there's a lot of people say, ooh, I can't believe you said that, but I'm glad you did, and I support it. That's scary. That's scary. Where were we headed if President Trump hadn't have won? Where were we headed in these 4 years? I shudder to think. So they rearm, they retract themselves, didn't win the election, so now we just bite off different parts of it. We take you on at the schoolhouse. We take you on in the courts. We'll make you exhaust all of your energy, your money. We'll pull you into courts where most people agree with us, and we'll crucify you. And we'll make it so you never want to run again, that you never want to step out, that you never want to leave. We'll put so much pressure on you and your family. This is what they believe. We'll put so much pressure on you and your family. You won't want to do it anymore. I was talking to a man. I don't think he's listening tonight. He's a good man, good godly man, a preacher, pastor. And I won't say the name. We had a conversation just this week. And it was a guy who ran for office and won. I remember it. I remember things he said when he ran. He would go to the churches. He's a godly man. He's a preacher. He would go to these churches and he would tell them, I'm here to fight for you. I want to go to Washington. I want to go to the Capitol. I want to stand up for these rights. He ran and won, and he served for one term. And he was not defeated. He just didn't run. And this is telling. I didn't talk to him, but the gentleman I spoke with did. And he said that he told him, I can't serve in that place as a pastor. It's too dark. It's too ugly. It's too demonic. I just need to preach at my church. I do my part as a citizen, but I just can't. He said every day I was inundated with people trying to pull me to do things that were not right. And he said I got out. We may say he shouldn't have done that. He should have served as a good man, but he said it was eating at him inside. And he said that's not for me. He said for me is to be at my church and to lead my people in the direction of God. That's pretty telling. That's recent too. That's not long ago. That's pretty recent. And he's doing that. He's serving his church. And he did, but he said the longer it went, the darker it got, the more sinister it got, the more evil it got. And he said it was affecting me, and I had to get out. There's a lot of people this has happened to. There's a lot of people that feel the same way. We need to pray for folks like that. I thank him for his service. I understand completely where he's coming from. And I wish him and his family well. And he's still serving. He's just serving in a different way. There's a lot of people say, how do you remain godly and serve as a politician? Challenge. It's a great challenge. They're inundated with people coming at them left and right, from other officials, colleagues, lobbyists, you name it. They're coming at them left and right. And many of them came and they become what they said they would never be, what they went to run against, that they would go, they would serve the nation, they would sacrifice for the nation, and they become just like what they said they couldn't stand. And so they decided to run against it, and they become a version of that. Maybe not as bad, maybe worse, who knows? They became a version of that while their full intention was to stay and do right by the country or the city or the county or whatever it was, state. That's pretty telling. I understand that. Well, we're at the end of this hour, and we appreciate you for watching. I didn't get into a lot of news. Just felt like those are some things that I wanted to get off my heart. We appreciate you watching, those who have been in here. We'll see you again tomorrow night, Lord willing, right after our Front Porch Talking show. We'll be back with the Southern Fried MAGA report. We'll get in a little more news, a little more about some things that are going on. I hope you'll join with us. Thank you, Miss Jen, for being here. I don't know if you're still listening. I know it's late. The show is a little later. We appreciate you being here. Please support all the podcasters that are Rumble and others, especially Rumble, that are really trying and they're getting the message out. And thank you to Rumble, who is protecting that right for folks like me and you to get out here and say these things that we must stand on. Thank you for Patriot Mobile and companies like that. Use that promo code Cornbread. Make the switch today. I love their stance. The business meeting talking about Jesus. I love that. They're great folks from the great state of Texas. Tomorrow night on our Front Porch show, I'll be back right after, but on Front Porch first hour, we have a potential sender from the great state of Texas who wants to come and talk about his faith, his family, and his freedom, and running against the seat that John Cornyn currently holds. Others are lining up. Duncan for Senate. We'll see him tomorrow night on the Front Porch show on the Southern Fried Podcast, found on Rumble as well as many other social streams. Come and watch this, or watch it later if you're busy with another channel, maybe your own. And if you do have a channel, consider bringing him on, getting his message out. I'm interested to talk about Texas politics tomorrow night. We're going to get out of here. We'll play some music on the way out. We appreciate you so very much. Support all those podcasters and their affiliates and the things that they're trying to sell to support their ability to stay on the air and to help them out. They're not trying to get rich. They're just trying to keep things going. So we appreciate them very much. Some wonderful people I've become friends with, and they're awesome. We'll see you in the morning. If you're watching our channel, we'll be on Rumble as well. So for the SFP Morning Show, Friday edition. Made it through the work week. Looking for the weekend. Lots going on this weekend. Lots going on this weekend. Just in our channel, not counting all the others. Shout out to all those podcasters. Killer Carl, F Fine Forge, Empty Pockets Podcast, Big Tony, many others. We thank you. You're awesome. We'll see you in the morning.